This is a demo of the JSP HTML5 code generation. Basically, how the components that we built on that will interact with the client and the server. And in this case, I want to talk a little bit about some of the escaping that needs to happen within the strings and stuff, because within the string you can basically have some characters, values and stuff like that could throw off your whole content and mess up the whole page and the functionality and everything else. And it doesn't take much. A single character could screw up your whole page. So what you do is you do what's called escaping, and escaping is a way to make sure that it gets converted in a way that it's going to be safe when it lands on the browser. And it's pretty straightforward. If we look at just simple values that are displayed, strings, in this case we have a string here, and I purposely put a single quote and a double quote within part of its value, made it multiple lines, which basically means there's a BR in here somewhere, or a new line character tell it to do a break. And as a programmer, I don't want to have to deal with, okay, I'm going to populate all the data over here, I need to make sure it's all safe and everything else. Instead, I want the components to be able to do that, and I want to be able to do it using a library of some functions, so all the components can just, call that and not have to worry about it. So a couple of things that's going on. One is when stuff shows up as HTML string or XML, is we need to escape it to make sure that its characters are safe. So that's one thing. There's less than sign, greater than signs that need to be converted, and we'll look at the functions here in a minute. The other thing is within our pages and how our components, in this case we're looking at a OA select, which is basically starts out as a HTML5 select, and then we use a bootstrap select to basically turn that into a web component. And then what OA does is lets it automatically work with our model objects and be configurable so that we can configure it at the object level and stuff. So we'll look at this here real quick. So what I did in this demo, again, if we just look at this real quick, is I just have a list of names, made it 2-line, and try to put in some screwy characters, just make sure that everything was working okay. If we look at what's actually inspected here, we'll see that it's all HTML safe. If we actually go in and look at the HTML for this, we will see that things turn into quotes as they need to. There's double quote here, so it didn't worry about changing the single quote here, but it could do that kind of stuff. And again, this is after it lands in Chrome on the browser. So as it's being sent to the browser, we've got a couple of twists here. One is, here's our dough. Here's we want a line break, but in this case, if you notice, I'm escaping these with HTML codes for that, and then it follows all the way down to the end. So that's what we're sending, but we really don't want, or this would be undesirable to send down to the browser this way directly. But what we have here is some JavaScript coding, and so we need to first make sure that whatever lands in the HTML is safe, that doesn't break the page, formatting of it and all that. The second thing is when we're encoding that or embedding that into our JavaScript generation, which here is we're calling a JavaScript command, and in there we're sending it everything for this, all the options for that select. And as we do that, we're wrapping them all in a double quote. So if we look at the beginning of this whole thing's a long string, and at the end, here's a string down here at the end of the string. So this whole thing's a string. But inside of this, we're sending HTML, and possibly there could be some even JavaScript within this. So our quotes, our double quotes, single quotes, and all that kind of interaction, if quotes embedded in another quote and stuff, if it's used at JavaScript, or if it's going to be used when it whatever value it pops out to be HTML, those need to make sure that they're escaped right. So that gets a little bit tricky, and luckily within the OA components and how they're doing it is it's pretty straightforward once you see how it's working. So if we look at the code on that, if for that combo box, which is also combo and a select are the same things now. So for that combo box, basically went in there and we have a list of users, and I want to show the full name. Here's the width of it. No description if it's AJAX enabled like our other components. And now, like some of our other components, and we're kind of including it in pretty much the full set of components, where you can actually set a template. So the data that it's going to make available on the view is going to run it through a template. So in this case, we want the full name, we want a break, and then we're just going to put some characters here. Another example could be we're going to put their full name. We might want to style it a certain way with some markup, and we might want to show some other information, maybe their address, their phone number, stuff like that. Kind of stack that information and get kind of a multi-line cell within our drop down there. So this is, at a programming level, using this is our only concern. So under the hood, this is automatically going to go to the OA component, and within it, it has some methods in here that's going to actually spit out the JavaScript to the browser that we're looking at there on the source. And what it's going to do is it's going to get all the options. So it's got something here to get all the options. The options is actually what's viewable. Again, what we're seeing here under Tracy Doe XXX, and so it's going to go through the options. To form those options, it knows the hub that we gave it, so basically it's going to loop through them all. It knows the property path, so it's going to go ahead and get that as the display value, and then it gives the coder a chance to actually change that value that's going to be displayed. Checks a few things here as far as what's going to be returned when it gets submitted, if it's recursive, if it's been selected or not. Again, just normal stuff for filling out a select HTML select element. Also supports headings like a select does, so we can go in here and figure out the headings and stuff. Headings is another thing, another viewable piece of a label type thing that needs to be converted to HTML. Make sure it's safe, so we're making sure we do that here. We can also have a property that is our heading. So we might be listing employees, and we might want to have them all have a heading or group by department or manager or something like that. So this will go ahead and check to see if a new heading needs to be put on there, and it will let's see, also make sure that it's safe. And again, in this case, we're just making sure that the HTML string's safe. And then we go all the way through this. So there's a method over an OA string to convert it to HTML, XML. Any string, make sure that it's safe, won't break the formatting of the page. And what's that? Convert to HTML, make sure we got all these in this component. And we do. And for the single and double quotes, we basically need to convert those, because if a single quote's inside of another outer single quote, we need to escape those. So there's a method over an OA string for that. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to, and this is when we're embedding JavaScript code. So in some cases we have JavaScript code within JavaScript code, because it's JavaScript code which is setting a whole element or replacing a whole HTML within maybe a certain element or tag or something like that. And within that tag, there's also JavaScript code. So what this will do is make it safe by all the ones that have been escaped correctly, we don't have to do anything with. Then we will go ahead and correct all the ones that need to be corrected, and then convert it back, and then we're good. So what this is used for is whenever we need to convert inner single quotes. In other words, the outer is using single quotes, so we need whatever's inside, make sure that it's going to escape it right. And then we have another one for double quotes. And kind of the convention that we have for our code gen that goes down to the browser is it will use single quotes for all of our JavaScript stuff internally like this, and then whenever we embed something, we're using double quotes. And again, inside of here, it allows us to embed, in this case, this doesn't have any, but if there's like an on-click event handler or whatever, is it would automatically be in single quotes. But if that code also had single quotes or double quotes in it, it would have to be escaped out. So all that will be handled for us. So all that being said, is it just allows this conversion and all this to be handled the way that it needs to. And if you go and look at, let's see, if you do a search on it, you will find a lot of stuff as far as, you know, different ways of doing it, a lot of activity and stuff like that. Pretty standard, straightforward solutions and stuff to it. There's ways, you know, common ways, some libraries and stuff to do it at the browser side. We're doing a little bit more complex where we're actually embedding it within JavaScript, and that's generated and sent to the browser and stuff like that. So I think we have a good standard here, and I'll you know, kind of add to some of the tests that we have just so it's being used in all the places we need to.